Welcome to Miro's library. Let the rain outside wash away the noise of the world. Sit by the warmth of our fire and close your eyes. Allow these ancient pages to guide you into deep relaxation. Your journey into the mists of the past begins now. Some say love is a gentle breeze. Others say it is a destructive storm. For Viola, standing, shivering on a foreign shore, it was both. A shipwreck had swallowed her past. Now, to survive in a dangerous world, she would have to invent her future. She would have to wear a man's face to hide a woman's breaking heart. Chapter 1. The Cold Sands of Illyria. The ocean did not care for titles. It did not care for beauty. It roared with a hunger that was terrifying. The ship, made of strong oak, splintered like dry bone in the night. In the darkness of the storm, Viola felt the freezing grasp of the Adriatic Sea. She fought. She gasped for air. Finally, the waves, in a moment of strange mercy, threw her onto the sand. When she awoke, the world was silent. The sun was pale. The only sound was the rhythmic morning crash of the waves. She was alive, but she was alone. Nearby, the ship's captain, a rugged man with salt in his beard, pulled himself onto the beach. He was a survivor, too. Viola looked at the empty horizon. Her chest tightened. "My brother," she whispered, her voice trembling with salt and grief. "What of my brother?" The captain looked away toward the churning water. He had seen Sebastian, her twin, tie himself to a mast in the final moments. It was a desperate hope. "Madam," he said gently, "do not despair. I saw him bind himself to a strong beam. Perhaps, like you, he was saved." It was a thin thread of hope, but Viola grabbed it. She had to believe it. If she did not believe he was alive, the grief would pull her back into the sea. She turned her back on the water. She looked at the strange, towering cliffs ahead. "What country, friends, is this?" she asked. "This is Illyria, lady," the captain replied. "Illyria, a strange name, a place of dukes and counts and ancient rules. A dangerous place for a young, noble woman, alone, without family, without protection. She had gold, yes, saved from the wreck, but gold could not buy safety here." She asked the captain about the ruler of this land. He spoke of Duke Orsino, a noble man, he said, a bachelor, but a man consumed by a great sadness. He was desperately in love with a rich countess nearby, the Lady Olivia. Viola listened intently. A plan, dark and necessary, began to form in her mind. She could not go to this Lady Olivia. The Countess was in deep mourning for her own brother, and saw no one. But the Duke, perhaps the Duke. Viola looked at the captain. Her eyes were no longer filled with tears, but with resolve. "Captain," she said, her voice stronger now, "conceal me what I am. Help me hide my true self. I will serve this Duke, but not as Viola. I will dress as a young man, a page. I can sing. I can speak well. I can be useful to him." The captain looked at her. He saw the fierce determination in her face. He nodded slowly. He would keep her secret. On that cold beach, Viola died, and from the sea-soaked wreckage, a young man named Cesario was born. Chapter 2. The Palace of Sighs. 3 days later, the palace of Duke Orsino was a different world entirely from the cold beach. It was warm. It was suffocatingly beautiful. The air smelled thick with heavy perfumes. The scent of lilies and roses draped over everything. Music played constantly. It was always a sad, sweet melody, designed to feed the Duke's melancholic mood. Orsino did not just want love. He wanted to drown in the idea of it. He lounged on velvet cushions, sighing, wishing for the music to play on, hoping that an excess of melody would finally kill his appetite for the distant Lady Illyria. Tinned to this perfumed atmosphere walked Cesario. The disguise was perfect. The sea-soaked dress was gone. In its place, Viola wore the fine doublet and hose of a young gentleman. She looked in the mirrors of the palace hallways, and a stranger looked back, a handsome youth, a little delicate, perhaps. Her voice was still high, unbroken, like a boy's. Her lips were too red, too smooth for a man. But it worked. The Duke starved for a new ear to listen to his complaints, took an immediate liking to this new attendant. He saw only a loyal young man. He did not see the woman beneath the doublet, whose heart was already beginning to beat faster whenever he entered the room. It was a cruel irony. Viola had come for safety. Instead, she found a new kind of danger. Orsino called for Cesario. He motioned for the others to leave. He wanted to be alone with his new favorite, Cesario. The Duke said, his voice thick with emotion. You know everything about me now. I have opened the very book of my soul to you. Viola, standing straight as a young page should, nodded. Your grace honors me. Therefore, the Duke continued, standing up, pacing the room with restless energy. Go to her. Go to the Lady Illyria. Do not take no for an answer. Stand at her doors. Tell her my love is not like other men's love. Tell her I am burning. Viola hesitated, her stomach twisted. Every word he spoke about loving Illyria felt like a small stone dropped on her own heart. But, my lord, she ventured carefully, they say she will not see anyone. She is mourning deeply. She has veiled her face for 7 years. She will see you, Orsino insisted, turning to look at his young page. He smiled, a charming, devastating smile. You are young. You are handsome in a youthful way. Women like that, a young face is better for a messenger of love than an old one. She will listen to you, Cesario. You accept her denial better than I could. The trap was set. The irony was complete. Viola bowed low to hide the pain in her eyes. She had to obey. She was Cesario now. I will do my best, my lord, she said softly. I will woo your lady. She turned to leave the perfumed room, the sad music still playing in the background. As she walked down the long marble corridor, alone again, the mask slipped for just a moment. She whispered into the empty air, a confession that only the palace walls heard. I'll do my best to win your lady, she thought bitterly. Yet what a tangled web this is. For I must go and woo the very woman who holds the heart of the man I wish to marry myself. The game had begun in earnest, and Viola, dressed in a man's clothes, was already losing her heart. In the house of mourning, silence is supposed to be a virtue. But in the grand estate of Lady Olivia, silence was a war. Between the heavy black veils of grief and the drunken laughter of a rebellious uncle, a new spark was about to be struck, a spark named Caesarea. Chapter 3. The House of Shadows and Wine, while Duke Orsino sighed in his perfumed palace. The estate of Lady Olivia was a place of strange contradictions. It was a house buried in black. The curtains were drawn. The servants moved like ghosts. Olivia, the beautiful countess, had sworn to the heavens. For 7 long years she would walk like a nun. She would water her room with daily tears, all for a brother who was gone. But in the dark corners of the kitchens there was no mourning. There was only wine. Sir Toby Belch did not believe in grief. He believed in the sharp sting of ale and the comfort of a late-night song. He was Olivia's uncle, a man of great girth, a man with a voice like a rusted gate. To him his niece's sorrow was a waste of good time. What a plague means this morning, Sir Toby roared, his face red from the night's festivities. He leaned against a heavy oak table. He looked at Maria, the sharp-witted maid. Maria was small. She was clever. She was the one who truly kept the house from falling into total chaos. Your niece will hear of this, Sir Toby, Maria warned, though her eyes danced with secret amusement. She spoke of your ill hours. She is annoyed by your drinking. You must confine yourself within the modest limits of order. Sir Toby laughed, a deep belly laugh that shook the silver plates on the shelves. Confine. I will confine myself no finer than I am. These clothes are good enough to drink in. These boots are good enough to stumble in. Into this room of wine and wit walked Sir Andrew Aguecheek. If Sir Toby was a mountain of a man, Sir Andrew was a blade of dry grass. He was tall. He was thin. His hair hung like yellow flax on a distaff. He was a knight with a heavy purse and a very light brain. He was there, at Sir Toby's invitation, to woo the Lady Olivia. It was a hopeless quest. Sir Andrew knew it. Sir Toby knew it. But Sir Toby wanted Sir Andrew's money to pay for the wine. Fair lady, Sir Andrew squeaked, trying to bow to Maria. He was a man who practiced his courtly manners in the mirror, but he always forgot them when he spoke to a real woman. The morning was spent in foolish talk, in dancing, in the empty, hollow laughter of men who had nothing better to do. They were a circus in a house of funeral bells, and watching them all with a cynical eye was Feste, the fool. Feste was not truly a fool. He was the wisest person in the room. He wore the motley clothes of a jester. He carried a bauble, but his mind was a razor. He walked through the dark hallways of Olivia's grief. He sang songs that were both beautiful and biting. He reminded the Countess that if her brother's soul was in heaven, it was foolish to mourn so much. Ovia, beneath her veil, found comfort in his wit. But her comfort was about to be shattered by a knock at the gate. Chapter 4. The messenger at the gate, a young man, was at the doors. He refused to leave. Malvolio, the steward of the house, was sent to deal with him. Malvolio was a man of cold stone. He wore a heavy gold chain. He looked at the world as if it were a stain on his shoes. He hated laughter. He hated Sir Toby. He hated anything that was not orderly, stiff, and perfect. "He is very young," Malvolio reported to Olivia, his voice dripping with disdain, "and very ill-mannered. He says he will speak with you. He says he will stand at your door like a post or a sheriff's man until he sees you." Olivia was curious. A spark of life moved behind her veil. "What kind of man is he?" she asked. "Of mankind," Malvolio replied dryly. "He is very young. He speaks very confidently. One would think his mother's milk was scarce out of him." Olivier sighed. Perhaps a distraction was needed. "Let him approach," she said. She pulled her black veil over her face. She sat on her high chair. She was a statue of sorrow again. Cesario entered. The room was quiet. The air was heavy. Viola, hidden inside the page's clothes, felt her heart pounding. She looked at the veiled woman. She saw the wealth. She saw the beauty that even the black silk could not hide. "The honorable lady of the house, which is she?" Cesario asked. His voice was clear. It was bold. It was a voice that did not belong in a house of ghosts. Olivia did not move. "Speak to me. I shall answer for her." Then the duel began. Not a duel of swords. A duel of words. Cesario began the speech that Orsino had taught him. The poetic, rehearsed, hollow words of a duke's love. But Olivia was bored. She had heard it all before. She wanted to know about the messenger, not the message. "Are you a comedian?" Olivia asked, a hint of a smile in her voice. Cesario replied, "And yet I am not what I play." The words were a dangerous truth. Viola was playing a man. She was playing a messenger. She was playing a game of shadow. "I will lead you to my heart's message," Cesario continued, "but only if you are the lady. I cannot waste these words on a servant." Olivia was intrigued. This boy was different. He was not afraid of her. He did not bow like the others. She signaled for her servants to leave. They were alone. The silence of the room felt different now. It was no longer the silence of a tomb. It was the silence of a secret. "Look, sir," Olivia said. She reached up. She pulled back the black veil. "Is this not well done?" Viola stared. Olivia was beautiful. Her skin was like cream. Her eyes were dark and full of a sudden, sharp intelligence. For a moment, Viola forgot her role. She saw her rival. She saw the woman Orsino loved. "Excellently done," Cesario whispered. "If God did all, bitters in grain, sir," Olivia teased. "It will endure wind and weather." Then Cesario spoke, not the Duke's words, but her own. She spoke of what she would do if she loved Olivia. She spoke of building a willow cabin at the gate. She spoke of calling out Olivia's name to the echoing hills. She spoke with a passion that Orsino could never feel, because Viola knew what it was like to love someone who did not love her back. "You might do much," Olivia said softly. Her voice had changed. The coldness was gone. Cesario left. He walked out into the bright Illyrian sun. He felt he had done his duty. He had delivered the message. But inside the house, Olivia was standing still. Her breath was short. Her heart, which she had thought was dead, was racing. She did not think of Duke Orsino. She did not think of her dead brother. She thought of the boy, the delicate, bold, beautiful boy with the red lips and the sharp tongue. "What is your parentage?" she whispered to the empty room, repeating the question she had asked him. "Above my fortunes, yet my state is well. I am a gentleman." She leaned against the stone wall. She was terrified. She was a countess. She was in mourning. And yet, in the space of 5 minutes, she had fallen in love. Not with a duke, but with a page, with a ghost. I know not what," she muttered. She called for Malvolio. She took a ring from her finger. A lie, a beautiful, desperate lie. "Run after that same peevish messenger. Tell him he left this ring with me. Tell him I will none of it. Go." Malvolio disappeared. Olivia stood alone in the shadows. The morning was over. The chaos had truly begun. Some traps are made of iron and teeth. Others are made of paper and pride. Malvolio was a man who lived in a cage of his own vanity. He did not know that a single letter, written by a clever hand, was about to turn his world upside. Chapter 5. The midnight clash, the night in Illyria was not silent. While the Lady Olivia lay awake, thinking of the mysterious boy, Cesario, her kitchen was a battlefield of noise. Sir Toby Belch and Sir Andrew Agercheek were not finished. They had found more wine. They had found more songs. They sat by the dying fire, their shadows dancing on the stone walls like giants. Sir Toby's voice was a thunder of laughter. Sir Andrew, as usual, was trying to keep up, his thin legs dangling from a high stool. "A catch, a catch," Sir Toby roared. They began to sing. It was a loud, discordant, beautiful mess of a song. It was a song that defied the mourning of the house. It was a song that celebrated being alive, and being drunk, and being foolish. Maria entered, her face lit by a single candle. She looked like a small, angry spirit. "For the love of peace, be quiet," she whispered, though her eyes were shining. "If my lady hears this, she will call her steward, Malvolio, and he will turn you all out of doors without a thought. Malvolio is a stuffed shirt," Sir Toby cried, waving a tankard of ale. "He is a Puritan. He is a man who thinks because he is virtuous there shall be no more cakes and ale." As if the name itself had summoned a demon, the door creaked open. There stood He was dressed in his nightgown. He held a silver candlestick high. His face was set in a mask of pure, icy disgust. He looked at the wine. He looked at the crumbs on the table. He looked at Sir Toby as if he were a piece of rotting meat. "My masters, are you mad?" Malvolio's voice was like a cold wind. "Is there no respect for place, persons, or time in you? Do you make an alehouse of my lady's palace?" Sir Toby did not flinch. He sat up straight. He looked Malvolio in the eye. "We did keep time, sir, in our catches. Snecker." The insult was sharp. Malvolio turned his gaze to Maria. "Mistress Mary, if you valued my lady's favor, you would not provide the means for this uncivil rule. She shall know of this. I swear it." He turned on his heel. His long shadow followed him out of the room like a dark cape. The silence he left behind was heavy. Sir Andrew blinked. I could challenge him to a duel, he suggested weakly. I have a very good sword, and I am not afraid of stewards. But Maria was smiling. It was a dangerous, brilliant smile. No, she said, her voice low and sharp. A duel is too quick. Malvolio needs something slower. He needs a fall that everyone can see. She sat down at the table. She leaned into the circle of candlelight. I know his weakness, she whispered. He thinks he is perfect. He thinks every woman who looks at him is in love with him. He even thinks the Countess Illyria looks at him with a secret passion. Sir Toby leaned in. Go on, Maria. I will drop a letter in his path, she said. I can write exactly like my lady. I will write a letter that speaks of love. It will be vague. It will be mysterious, but it will be enough. It will tell him to do things, ridiculous things, to wear yellow stockings, to be cruel-scarted, to smile constantly, even though he hates smiling. Sir Toby let out a low, appreciative whistle. He will believe it. His vanity will eat the bait like a hungry fish. He will become a fool, Maria said, and we will be there, hidden in the bushes, to watch him drown in his own pride. Chapter 6. The Garden of Deception. The next morning was bright and cruel. The garden of Lady Olivia was a masterpiece of green hedges and hidden corners. It was a place for lovers to walk, but today it was a stage for a comedy of errors. Sir Toby, Sir Andrew, and Fabian, another servant who hated Malvolio's arrogance, were hidden. They were squeezed behind a large box tree, their breathing heavy, their eyes peeking through the leaves. Here comes the trout that must be caught with tickling, Maria whispered, as she dropped the letter on the gravel path and disappeared. Malvolio approached. He was walking slowly. He was talking to himself. This was his habit. He lived in a fantasy world where he was already a count. He was practicing his noble walk. He was imagining his future servants bowing to him. To be Count Malvolio, he muttered to the air. I will sit in my state. I will call my officers about me. I will have my branched velvet gown. I will play with my rich jewel. Behind the hedge, Sir Toby was turning purple. He wanted to jump out and strike the man, but Fabian held him back. Peace, he hissed. Wait for the letter. Malvolio stopped. His eyes caught the white paper on the ground. What should this be? He picked it up. He examined the seal. By my life, this is my lady's hand. These be her very C's, her U's, and her T's, and thus she makes her great P's. He broke the seal. His heart, if he had one, was racing. He began to read. The letter was a masterpiece of manipulation. It spoke of a secret love. It spoke of one who was higher in rank than the other. It used a riddle, M-O-A-I, doth sway my life. Malvolio's mind began to twist the letters. M, Malvolio. O, Olivia. A, I. It must be me. Everything leads to me. He continued to read. The instructions were specific. If thou art great, show it. Be opposite with a kinsman. Be surly with servants. Wear yellow stockings. Be cross-gartered. Smile. A transformation took place. The cold, stiff steward began to melt into a creature of pure delusion. He looked up at the sky. He was no longer a servant. He was a chosen man. "I will be proud," he declared. "I will read politic authors. I will wash off gross acquaintance. I will be point-devised, the very man. I do not fool myself. I do not let my imagination jade me. She loves me." He ran off, clutching the letter to his chest, as if it were a holy relic. He was going to find yellow stockings. He was going to find garters. He was going to find a smile he had not used in 20 years, behind the box tree. Sir Toby and his friends collapsed in laughter. They rolled on the grass. They gasped for air. "I could marry this Maria for this," Sir Toby wheezed. "She is a genius. She has turned a devil into a clown." "I am a fool," Sir Andrew said, looking thoughtful. "But I think I am a happier fool than Malvolio." They followed the steward from a distance, like hunters following a wounded animal. The trap was set. The bait was taken. And in the house of Illyria, the morning black was about to be replaced by the bright, ridiculous yellow of a man who believed a lie. The sea gives. The sea takes. But sometimes it returns what was lost in a way that creates even more chaos. Sebastian did not know that his face was already famous in the streets of Illyria. He did not know that he was walking into a mirror. Chapter 7. The Ghost of the Waves. The docks of Illyria were a place of noise, salt, and secrets. Away from the perfumed palaces and the quiet gardens, the real world breathed, and into this world stepped a ghost. He was young. He was handsome. He had the same golden hair, the same sharp eyes, and the same delicate strength as the boy Cesario. But this was no disguise. This was Sebastian. For days he had believed he was the only survivor. He had seen his sister Viola disappear beneath the white foam of the Atlantic. He had wept for her. He had carried the weight of her death like a stone in his chest. But he was not alone. Walking beside him was Antonio. Antonio was a man of the sea. His face was etched with lines of sun and storm. He was a man of deep passions and even deeper loyalties. He had pulled Sebastian from the wreckage. He had nursed him back to health. He had given him his time, his care, and his heart. "Will you stay no longer?" Antonio asked. His voice was rough, but there was a strange tenderness in it. "Will you not let me go with you?" Sebastian shook his head. His heart was heavy. He did not want to bring his shadow into Antonio's life. "My stars shine darkly over me," Sebastian said softly. "The malignancy of my fate might perhaps distemper yours. I am bound for Duke Orsino's court." Sebastian wanted to be lost. He wanted to wander. He felt that without his twin, he was only half a person. He did not know that his other half was only a few miles away, dressed in a man's doublet. Antonio hesitated. He had a secret, a dangerous one. "I have many enemies in Orsino's court," he confessed. "Years ago, in a sea fight, I did some service against the Duke's fleet. If I am snapped in these streets, I shall pay dearly." "Do not risk it, then," Sebastian urged. But Antonio could not let him go. His devotion to the young man was stronger than his fear of the Duke's guards. "The desire to follow you," Antonio said, "more sharp than filed steel, did spur me forth. I will come, I will hide in the shadows, but I will not leave you alone in a strange land. He reached into his cloak. He pulled out a heavy purse of gold. Hold this, he said, pressing it into Sebastian's hand. If you find something you wish to buy, some toy or trinket, you shall not want for money. I will go to Our in the Elephant. I will prepare our stay. We shall meet there in an hour. Sebastian smiled. It was the first time he had felt the warmth of a friend in a long time. He tucked the gold away. He turned toward the town. He wanted to see the sights. He wanted to see the famous buildings of Illyria. He walked into the heart of the city. He did not notice the way people stopped. He did not see the way merchants blinked in confusion. He did not hear the whispers. To the people of Illyria, Cesario, the Duke's favorite, was suddenly wandering the streets with a different look in his eyes. A look that was bolder, a look that did not recognize them. The air in Illyria was thickening with a strange magic, the magic of two people with one face. Chapter 8. The Tangled Knot Back at the Estate of Lady Olivia. The confusion was already beginning to bear fruit. Viola, still as Cesario, was returning from another failed mission to woo the Countess. She was tired, she was frustrated, and she was deeply, painfully in love with Orsino. As she walked near the palace gates, a man blocked her path. But it was not the Malvolio she knew. The steward was walking with a strange, rhythmic spring in his step. He was wearing a grin that looked like a jagged wound across his face and his legs. Viola stared. He was wearing bright, garish yellow stockings. They were cross-gartered with black ribbons all the way up his thighs. He looked like a colorful bird that had lost its mind. "Sweet lady," Malvolio whispered, though he was speaking to Viola. He thought he was being charming. He thought he was following the instructions of the letter. Ho-ho, I can smile. I can surely smile. Viola stepped back, her hand on the hilt of her sword. "Sir, what is the matter with you? Are you ill?" Malvolio laughed, a dry, terrifying sound. "Ill? No, I am in the sun. I am in the light." He began to quote the letter, winking at the confused girl. "Some are born great, some achieve greatness." Viola realized something was very wrong. But before she could speak, Malvolio was called away by a servant. He strutted off, his yellow legs flashing in the sun, leaving Viola in a state of pure bewilderment. "The world is mad," she muttered, but the madness was only beginning. A moment later, Sir Andrew Egercheek appeared. He was trembling. His face was pale. He held a piece of paper that looked as if it had been dipped in vinegar. "You," Sir Andrew cried, trying to sound brave. "You are a seeker of Lady Olivia's heart. I challenge you. I have written a letter of defiance. We shall fight to the death." Sir Toby Belch was standing behind him, hiding a smile. He had pushed Sir Andrew into this. He wanted to see the brave Cesario fight the cowardly Sir Andrew. He had told each of them that the other was a master of the sword, a killer, a devil. Viola felt a cold chill. She had never held a sword in anger. She was a woman. She was a girl who had spent her life in silk and song. "I have done you no wrong," she pleaded. "I am no fighter. Lies, Sir Toby shouted, egging them on. "He is a dragon. He has killed 20 men before breakfast." The two warriors drew their swords. Their hands were shaking so hard the steel rattled. They circled each other like two terrified kittens. It would have been a comedy if the swords weren't real. "Draw," Sir Andrew squeaked. "Please." Sir Viola whimpered. And then a voice like thunder broke the air. "Put up your swords." Antonio had arrived. He had been walking toward the elephant when he saw the fight. He looked at the boy in the doublet. He saw the face of the man he had saved from the sea. He saw Sebastian. At least, he thought he did. Antonio stepped between them, his own sword flashing in the light. "If this young gentleman have done offense," Antonio growled at Sir Toby, "I take the fault on me. If you offend him, I for him defy you." Sir Toby was surprised. He didn't know this man, but he knew a real fighter when he saw one. "Who are you?" But before Antonio could answer, the sound of heavy boots echoed on the cobblestones. The Duke's officers were there. They had recognized Antonio. The man who had fought Orsino's fleet was finally cornered. "Antonio, I arrest you at the suit of Count Orsino," the officer declared. Antonio did not fight. He knew he was caught. He turned to the boy he thought was Sebastian. He needed his money back to pay his bail. He needed a friend. "I must obey," Antonio said, his eyes fixed on Viola. "But this comes with a heavy heart. I sought you out to help you. Now I must ask for my purse. The gold I gave you on the docks." Viola blinked. Her heart was racing. "What purse, sir?" she asked. "I know you not. I am grateful that you saved me from this fight, but I have no gold of yours. I have very little for myself." The world seemed to stop for Antonio. He looked at the face he had loved. He saw the same eyes, the same lips, but the spirit was different. He felt a cold, sharp pain in his chest. He thought he had been betrayed by the one person he trusted. "Sebastian!" Antonio cried, his voice breaking with grief. "Will you deny me now? Is it possible that my kindness to you has produced this? I snatched you from the jaws of death. I gave you my love, my money, my soul. And now you pretend you do not know my name." The officers pulled him away. Antonio was shouting now. He was crying out against the cruelty of the world. He was calling out the name Sebastian over and over again. Viola stood frozen, her breath caught in her throat. She didn't hear the insults of Sir Toby. She didn't see the retreating guards. She only heard one word. "Sebastian. He named my brother," she whispered to the wind. "He looked at me and saw Sebastian. Could it be? Does the sea return what it takes?" A new hope, brighter than any sun, began to grow in her heart. But as she stood there, paralyzed by the possibility of her brother being alive, she realized the danger. If Sebastian was in Illyria, and if he looked exactly like her, the knot was not just tangled. It was about to be pulled tight. Fate is a master of timing. It waits until the knot is tightest, and then it pulls. Sebastian walked through the streets of Illyria, looking for a friend. Instead, he found a woman who claimed to love him, and a man who wanted to kill him. He began to wonder if the ocean had not saved his life, but had instead drowned his sanity. Chapter 9. The Sword of Truth. The streets of Illyria were no longer welcoming to Sebastian. To him, the city felt like a beautiful dream that was slowly turning into a fever. Every corner he turned, people nodded. They smiled. They called him by a name he did not own. Cicerio. A merchant would shout. Sebastian would stop. He would look around, but there was no one else there. He was alone, or he thought he was. Near the great stone fountain in the center of the town, he saw two men approaching. They looked like they had been born in a tavern and raised in a brewery. One was fat and loud. The other was thin and trembling. Sir Andrew Agercheek had found his courage. Or rather, Sir Toby had forced it into him with a bottle of wine. He saw the boy in the doublet. He saw the yellow hair. He saw the person he thought had cheated him of Lady Olivia's heart. "Now, sir," Sir Andrew squeaked, drawing his sword with a shaky hand. "I have you. You are a coward, and I shall prove it on your skin." He swung his sword. It was a clumsy, desperate move. Sebastian did not flinch. He did not cry out like Viola had. He was a soldier. He was a man trained in the art of the blade. He looked at the thin man with cold, clear eyes. He stepped to the side. With one swift motion, he struck Sir Andrew across the face with the flat of his hand. Sir Andrew fell back. He hit the stone fountain with a loud splash. "He has killed me," he wailed, though he was barely scratched. Sir Toby Belch was stunned. The page had changed. The delicate boy had become a lion. "Hold, sir," Toby roared, drawing his own heavy blade. "I will not see my friend beaten by a boy. I will beat you both," Sebastian shouted. His blood was up. He did not know these men. He did not know why they attacked him, but he knew how to defend himself. He stepped forward, his sword flashing like lightning in the Illyrian sun. The fight was short. Sir Toby was strong, but he was drunk. Sebastian was fast. He was precise. He was winning. Suddenly, a voice like a silver bell rang through the square. "Hold, Toby, on thy life. I charge thee, hold." The Lady Olivia rushed into the square. Her veil was gone. Her face was flushed with anger and worry. She threw herself between Sebastian and Sir Toby. She looked at her uncle with eyes that could have frozen the sea. "Will it ever be thus?" she cried. "Ungracious wretch, out of my sight. You are a beast, fit for the mountains and the caves." Sir Toby grumbled. He sheathed his sword. He and the dripping Sir Andrew retreated into the shadows, muttering about the madness of youth. Olivia turned to Sebastian. Her expression changed instantly. The anger vanished. In its place was a look of pure, radiating tenderness. She reached out. She took his hand. "Bye, prithee, gentle friend," she whispered. "Let thy fair wisdom, not thy passion, sway. Come with me to my house. Do not let these ruffians disturb you further." Sebastian stared at her. He had seen beautiful women in his travels, but this woman, she was a goddess. Her skin was like marble. Her voice was music, and she was looking at him as if he were the only soul in the world. He looked at his own hand, held in hers. "What is this?" he thought. "Am I mad, or is this a dream?" If I am dreaming, let me sleep forever. Madame, he said aloud, his voice deep and uncertain. Do not speak, she smiled. Just come. I have waited so long for you to look at me this way. Sebastian followed her. He walked into the grand estate. He walked past the silent servants. He walked into a life that belonged to his sister, and he did not ask a single question. Chapter 10. The Secret Vow inside the house. The air was still. It smelled of jasmine and ancient books. Illyria was moving fast. She was afraid that this Caesarea would change his mind. She was afraid the moment would break like glass. She called for her private priest. She called for a holy man to wait in the chapel. If you mean well, Illyria said, her eyes searching Sebastian's face. If you are the man I think you are, stay with me. Let us go into the chapel. Let us plight our troth. Let it be a secret for now, but let it be a promise before heaven. Sebastian looked at her. He felt the weight of the gold Antonio had given him. He felt the warmth of the sun through the windows. He looked at Illyria's lips. He was a stranger in a strange land. He had no home. He had no sister. But here was a queen, offering him her heart, her fortune, and her life. I will go with you, Sebastian said. His voice was firm now. I will follow you to this chapel, and I will swear to be yours. Whatever this magic is, I accept it. They walked into the small, cool chapel. The priest stood waiting in the shadows. The candles flickered. There, in the silence, Sebastian and Illyria exchanged rings. They spoke the ancient words. They bound their lives together. Illyria wept with joy. She thought she had finally won the heart of the stubborn page. Sebastian smiled. He felt like a man who had found a treasure in the middle of a storm. But as they kissed in the quiet light of the chapel, the real world was waiting outside. The Duke was coming. The officers were coming. And Viola, the girl who had started this entire tapestry of lies, was about to face the man she had accidentally replaced. The mirror was about to break, and when it did, the shards would cut everyone. Every lie has an expiration date. Every mask, no matter how well crafted, must eventually fall. In the gardens of Illyria, the sun was setting on the greatest deception the city had ever known. Before the moon rose, brothers would find sisters, masters would find wives, and a fool would find his final, bitter revenge. Chapter 11. The dark room of Vanity, while the sun shone on the streets. There was one corner of Illyria's estate that was buried in eternal night. Malvolio was in the dark. The steward, once so proud in his yellow stockings, was now a prisoner. They had locked him in a small, windowless stone room. They said he was mad. They said his brain was infected by a fever of the soul. But the only fever Malvolio had was his own vanity. He sat on the cold floor. He could hear the muffled laughter of Sir Toby and Maria from the hallway. He felt the heavy weight of his disgrace. I am not mad, he shouted to the shadows. I am as sane as any man in Illyria. Bring me light. Bring me a pen. I will write to the Countess. But the shadows did not answer. Instead, a voice came from the keyhole. It was a high, strange voice. It was Festi, the fool, disguised as Sir Topas. a fictional priest. Bow, hyperbolical fiend. Festi cried, his voice echoing in the small room. How vexest thou this man? Talkest thou nothing but of ladies? Malvolio pleaded. He begged for mercy. He swore he was a victim of a cruel joke. But Festi, playing both the priest and himself, spun a web of words around the steward. He made Malvolio doubt the very air he breathed. It was a dark comedy, a cruel end for a man who thought he was better than the world. Sir Toby, watching from the shadows, began to feel a chill of regret. The joke had gone too far. The Countess was coming. The Duke was coming. The games had to end. Let him have his light, Sir Toby muttered. Let him have his paper. The play is almost over. Chapter 12. The convergence of shadows. The air in Illyria grew thick with tension. Duke Orsino, unable to stay in his palace any longer, walked toward Olivia's estate. He was a man driven by a desperate final hope. Beside him walked Cesario. Viola felt a heavy dread in her chest. She saw the Duke's hand on his sword. She saw the storm in his eyes. She knew that today the lie would either save her or kill her. At the gates of the estate, they were met by the officers. They were dragging Antonio, the sea captain, in chains. That is the man, Orsino shouted, his eyes narrowing. The pirate who cost me my ships, the man who bloodied my best sailors. Antonio stood tall. He looked at the Duke with defiance, but then his gaze shifted to Cesario. The anger vanished. In its place was the same heartbroken betrayal Viola had seen before. That boy, Antonio said, his voice trembling. That ungrateful youth. I snatched him from the smoke and the waves. I gave him my life. And when I was caught, he looked me in the eye and said he did not know my name. Orsino laughed. Your words are madness, sailor. This boy has been with me every hour of every day for 3 months. He has never been to the docks. He has never seen the sea since his own wreck. The confusion was like a thick fog. No one understood. No one could see through the layers of the mask. Then the doors of the estate opened. Lady Olivia walked out. She looked like a queen. She looked like a woman who had finally found her peace. She saw the Duke. She saw the officers. But her eyes only had room for the boy in the doublet. Cesario, she whispered, her voice full of a secret light. Husband, why do you stay so far from me? The word husband hit the air like a thunderbolt. Orsino turned to Viola. His face was a mask of pure, burning rage. Husband, you, my page, my shadow. He drew his sword. The steel sang as it left the scabbard. You have stolen my love. You have used my own messages to build your own nest. I will kill the thing I love, just to keep it from you. My lord, Viola cried, falling to her knees. I love you more than any woman could love a man. I have never sworn a vow to her. I have never entered her chapel. Lies, Olivia shouted. Call the priest. Call the holy man who bound us. The priest stepped forward. He spoke of the candles. He spoke of the rings. He spoke of the 2 young people who had stood before him only an hour ago. Viola looked at the sky. She felt the world spinning. She was being accused of things she had never done. She was being hated for a love she had never felt. She was trapped in a cage made of her own face. And then a figure appeared at the edge of the square. He was walking slowly. He was bruised. His doublet was torn from his fight with Sir Toby. He was looking at the ground, apologizing to no one in particular. "I am sorry, madam," Sebastian said, his voice deep and weary. "I broke your uncle's head, but he forced my hand." The square went silent, a silence so deep you could hear the distant cry of a seagull. Orsino dropped his sword. Antonio gasped, his chains rattling. Olivia felt the blood drain from her face. There were two of them. One stood by the Duke, one stood by the fountain. They were identical. Every hair, every line of the jaw, every glint in the eye. It was as if a mirror had been shattered and both pieces had come to life. "One face," the Duke whispered. "One voice, one habit, and two persons. A natural perspective that is and is not." Sebastian stopped. He looked at the boy by the Duke. He froze. His breath hitched. "Do I stand there?" Sebastian asked, his voice shaking. "I never had a brother. I had a sister, whom the blind waves and surges have devoured." Viola stood up. She walked toward him. She did not run. She moved as if she were walking on glass. She looked at his eyes. She saw the mole on his father's brow. She saw the way he tilted his head. "If you be a ghost," she whispered, her voice cracking, "I must be a ghost too." They spoke of their father. They spoke of the ship. They spoke of the day they were born. And as the words flowed, the mask of Cesario began to melt away. "I am Viola," she finally cried, the name feeling strange and beautiful on her lips after so long. "I am the girl from the wreck. I am your sister, Sebastian." The reunion was not a loud explosion of joy. It was a quiet, holy moment. They embraced. The two halves of a broken soul were finally whole again. Chapter 13. The final resolution. The fog lifted. Orsino looked at the girl standing before him. He saw the same loyalty. He saw the same eyes that had watched him with such secret devotion. He realized that the love he had been seeking in Olivia was standing right beside him all along. "Boy," Orsino said, though he smiled as he said it, "thou hast said 1,000 times thou never shouldst love woman like to me. And all those sayings I will overswear," Viola replied, her eyes shining with tears. The Duke took her hand. "Give me thy hand. Let me see thee in thy woman's weeds." The marriages were settled. Sebastian had his Olivia. Orsino had his Viola. The chaos of Illyria was finally finding its rhythm. But there was one final shadow. Malvolio was brought out of his dark room. He was pale. He was trembling with a cold, hard anger. He held the letter in his hand, the letter that had destroyed his life. He looked at Olivia. "Madame, you have done me wrong," he said, his voice like dry parchment. "You wrote this. You told me to smile. You told me to wear these yellow rags." Olivia looked at the letter. She saw the hand of Maria. She saw the trick. She felt a moment of pity for the man. "Alas, Malvolio, this is not my writing." You have been most notoriously abused. Feste stepped forward. He looked at the steward. I was the priest, Malvolio, he teased. I was the voice in the dark. The whirligig of time brings in his revenges. Malvolio did not laugh. He did not ask for forgiveness. He looked at the happy couples. He looked at the mocking fool. He felt the sting of a pride that would never heal. I'll be revenged on the whole pack of you, he spat. He turned and walked away. He walked into the darkness of his own bitterness, leaving the music and the light behind. The sun finally dipped below the horizon. The palace was lit with 1,000 candles. The sound of a lute began to play. It was a new song, not a sad song of unrequited love, but a song of the sea, and of twins, and of the strange, beautiful ways that the wind blows us to our destination. Feste stood alone in the garden as the guests went inside. He began to sing his final song, a song about the rain that rains every day, a song about growing up and getting old, and the fact that the play is always over, but the world goes on. The story of Illyria was finished. The masks were put away, and in the silence of the night, only the memory of the 12th night remained a reminder that love is a storm. But eventually, everyone finds their shore.